Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In this series, we would be connecting with industry leaders from across the sports industry, where we will simplify sports and technology for all. I am Ami, your guide on this journey through the minds of wonderful tech leaders into the sports industry. We will dive deep into discussions into the industry from AI to cybersecurity, from sustainability to cloud. If it is sports tech, we are talking about it. Today, we have a very interesting guest with us, Mr. Jeremy Kent. We welcome you, Jeremy.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Hi. Jeremy has worked in advertising agencies in New York, London, and Sydney for a wide variety of brands, media, and sports bodies. His experience includes attracting and retaining sponsorship for Formula One and World Rally Champion team, and working with many clients such as Virgin Atlantic to maximize their investments in soccer, rugby, golf, and cricket. Jeremy's first role was with the leading New York agency EBW Advertising, working on the NFL account. Returning to the UK, he worked with Pacific Grand Prix as its marketing director and then joined Key Communications to head Key 3D, a new integrated service division providing global clients with pioneering broadcast and digital marketing services. Sports clients include F1's Team Lotus and WRC's ProDrive. Jeremy established the brand council in 1999 and is now the CEO of Loudhouse, a commercial rights consultancy that provides clients with strategic advice on monetizing rights and deploying technology to maximize revenue. Clients, which include, to name a few, are CPM International, Diamond Races, the International Hockey Federation, Olympic Federation, Social Bull Media, Virgin Atlantic Airways, and many more. Once again, we welcome you, Jeremy.
Thanks very much. Funny
Uh,
to have your life panned out that way.
Today, he would be talking about investing, commercialization, and the future of sports media and technology from the extreme and a lot of experience on his hand with all of us. Jeremy, over to you.
Uh, really, go away, go and answer the questions that you have for me. I think the first one you popped when we last spoke was about the biggest trends shaping sports investment today.
Absolutely.
Uh, I think really the first question we might kick off with is the biggest trends that are affecting sports revenues today, and then how we apply that to investing. So we're seeing, particularly in the United States and now in Europe, what we're calling unbundling, and so people aren't prepared to take out one subscription to a cable TV channel to pick up most of the sports. They're cutting that cord and they're buying the sports as and when they need them, and that's been driven by two things. One is cost. The second is a variety of new apps and platforms to watch just the sports you want. The second thing that's affecting revenues there is that because of that unbundling and a downturn in advertising, we're seeing a lot of the big media companies posting billion-dollar losses, and that's unsustainable. So that's driving down the value of the sports rights simply because they can't afford to pay the top dollars that we've seen in the 90s and early 2000s. So that's driving a lot of the sports rights holders to do direct to consumer, and we're seeing YouTube and fast channels start to fly. The downside to that is programmatic advertising doesn't deliver the same amount of revenues for the size of the audience that we would expect through traditional media. So how do you cover the production costs? How do you still distribute those funds when your revenue is being impacted left, right, and center? And that affects the investment side. So investment's always been attracted by the fact that sports audiences and fans are super sticky, they're emotionally engaged, they're passionate about those sports, but now they're fragmented and they're not paying. And how do you get an upturn in the rights? Media rights aren't continually going up. So those trends in the sports market and the downturn in advertising and the changes in the media market are affecting investing.
Okay. So, how was it in the past decade? You are into the industry from a very pretty long time. So, how was it back then?
So if you had a good audience like the English Premier League or the NFL, then you could anticipate that your rights value was going to go up on each rights cycle, 4 to 5 years and so on. What we're seeing now, Premier League's coming up to its next set of rights cycle, but we've seen in Italy with Serie A, they're now monetizing their entire inventory of matches for about 200 million euro less than they got on their last rights cycle. League One in France is the subject of a dispute with DAZN. They had a lot of trouble getting their rights away, and now because the audiences aren't there, League One is subject to a litigation from DAZN. We're seeing the same with sports across the board. America's holding out quite well, but it's premium men's sports that are managing to do it. But for how long? If you're a mid-tier sport and you're no longer bringing in all the audiences, as the Warner Brothers said, we have enough sports on Warner Brothers Discovery. We don't need any more. What's it going to bring in terms of eyeballs and advertising? And so it's straight commercial factors that are affecting sports rights and sports investing.
Okay. So, like, as you're talking about this, like, how do investors specifically evaluate the financial viability of sports franchisees or leagues or the startups?
Okay, so most sport, most sport is quite small as a business. Even to some extent, large clubs in the Premier League appear to be very large, but when you compare those with big companies, they're quite small. And that means that if you have a situation, for instance, in England, where we have a government quango called Sport England that puts out money to the sports, and I think their budget is around about 370, 400 million sterling for the next 4 years. Without that in place, those sports would suffer and diminish. They wouldn't have the goalposts, they wouldn't have the right kit, they wouldn't bring the kids forward, and so on. So there's very few sports that are profitable and sustainable, and they tend to be right at the top. So there's a disconnect, if you like, between the elite level sport and medium sport. And if I was sitting there on the investment side, I would be looking at how is the money that's going into those sports used and raised. Uh, if you've got a very strong grassroots sports element and you're bringing the kids in, cricket in India, you go out in the street, kids have put up a set of bales and they're playing cricket. And so you've got a massive thriving audience, people that are emotionally engaged for the Indian Premier League and the Indian cricket team. Where you don't have a big grassroots sport and you're not bringing the kids into the game, you're going to get diminishing returns over the years. So if we look at rugby union, sport that's very close to my heart, we're seeing the grassroots begin to die. The average age sitting at Twickenham is getting older and older. And as that audience dies out, what happens next for the sport? So the first thing I would look at if I was investing is what's the governing body doing to drive participation at grassroots? How are you getting more kids and families involved? Because that's your player pathways to the future and your excellence, but it's also driving your audience because those people are emotionally engaged with the sport. And investment at the end of the day is all about human emotion. Where are people looking? What are they doing? What are they excited about? How are they getting great value for money? So that would be my key. What's happening grassroots?
Agree with that point. Emotions play a massive role into the mass sports like cricket, as you're talking about in India. That is true. So, like, what role does equity play specifically into the sports investing, and how does the relationship ownership model work?
Right. So there's a variety of things there. We could separate out sports technology investing, which is a VC thing, and a standard business case goes around it. What are you going to do for the client? How's it going to work? If you're then looking at investment as in taking a minority ownership in a club or a league, then you've got to be looking at what's going to happen to that league's revenues and their commercial rights value over the cycle of that investment. So 5 to 7 years, or over the next media rights cycle, which is usually 4 to 5 years. And are those rights going to improve in value because you've either got growing grassroots sport, or you've got better fan engagement, or you use technology to deliver a better fan experience? And that one's key too, because if you have a situation where somebody is no longer counting the price of access and they're just enjoying the value for money they get from it, the emotional experience they get from the sport, then they don't worry about the price and they're going to come back next week. If you give somebody a poor experience, then they put a dollar value on it. Am I going to spend that money again, or am I going to move it elsewhere along with my time and attention? So it's the same as any other marketing. You need to give people great value for money, a really good emotional experience. And there's a lot of technology available that can help deliver that. So investing in sports, in the business around sports and the technology around sports has seen a lot of attention recently.
True. So, how, like, as we are talking about the investors and the investing, so how can they balance with the rapid rise into the sports startups or backed sports technology companies?
So a lot of I get quite a few investment decks across my desk, and I think the stat is that 1 in 100 gets finance. The biggest issue I see with sports tech is that they haven't done their research, or they've come at it from a purely technology point of view, and they haven't looked at the emotional aspect of the stakeholders in sport. So, in terms of how can it drive equity, um, there's three big elements of stakeholders. There's the brands, the sponsors, there's the fans, and there's the media. And the key to successful sports is to place themselves almost like a social platform at the center of a web, bringing all those different strands of engagement in. If you can show the sponsors that it's not only a bit of visibility that you've got 200 million eyeballs at the weekend, it's more about how's that shifting sales. So where's the technology available to prove that you're driving sales? And that's coming available now. And that first party data rests with the sport or with the club. The second bit is the media, same thing. You know, who's watching? How long are they engaged for? What's the demographic? What's that worth to advertisers or to drive subscriptions? And then for the fans themselves, how's this technology going to improve my viewing experience? So you will generally find that there will be somebody setting out, say, we are the platform that's going to do direct to consumer for each sport, and I'll probably see 3 of those a week. And for the large part, all of them set off with they've analyzed the problem correctly, that the sport needs to directly connect with the consumer, but the consumer either goes back to Sky Sports or ESPN, or they go to YouTube. And once they've gone to YouTube, that's a financial disaster for the sport. So YouTube's revenue model doesn't favor content providers, but its viewing audience keeps growing like this. So cracking that circle is one thing. The other area where we're seeing technology is how you can attract the brand and connect it to the consumer in a meaningful way. So, a classic example would be that people don't get up in the morning and want to engage with a financial brand or a dry brand. They don't, but they do want to engage with Formula One. And so that brand's on the car and you're tapping into that emotional connection. But how do you convert it into sales, into revenue, into savings, into buying investment products? And what we need to look at is the behavior pattern of the audience and what they're doing. So a simple example might be back in packaged goods with soft drinks. If we've got somebody that's buying 10 liters of soda a week, you don't need to advertise to them. So if you see fans with 10 liters, you don't need them. If you see somebody at 0, they're probably not going to buy your product either, because they're on a health kick and they're just drinking water and nothing else. But if you see somebody drinking 1 liter a week and you can move them up to 2 liters a week, that data is worthwhile. So how much is that customer worth to you? And if you can use the sport to actually coupon those individuals while they're in the supermarket, standing at the soft drinks aisle, and say, hey, we realize you're a fan of X team in Formula One. Here's a coupon just for you. Take it to the checkout. You got a 2-for-1 offer on your soda this week. So owning that data and being able to influence those sales is important. In terms of other technology, a lot of what's branded as AI, I would say probably isn't. It's not creative, but it's a really good bit of machine learning and algorithms. And we can see that have effect in broadcast. So Hawkeye technology is impacting NFL now. So it's faster to see first down gain line across the field without the need for the chain gang. Or we see it work in cricket. Was that out? Was it in? Was it a LBW? So that kind of technology comes along and it views the experience. But on a broader sense, if you have, for instance, a tennis tournament with 10, 15 courts in play at once, the TV gallery and the pundits may be focused in one sector. And there's a great match going on court 13. So it relies on the moment with a runner out there and a spotter and a mobile phone to say, can we do this? A really good algorithm spots a rally, spots the highlights, clips it, makes it available for branding, sponsorship, sending it out, but it also directs information through to the gallery to switch and start picking up this game because it's exciting right now. So we can see that kind of influence in terms of AI. But I would say that the most important thing for my role is AI's ability to take lots of pieces of data in unstructured formats or structured formats that aren't compatible and put it together in a meaningful way. We're awash with data. We know how much an athlete sweats, how much they run, how much they move, what their performance has been, how the kicks go. Wash with that. And that's just on the athlete side. We've then got the ticket buying stadium bit, whether they're people are watching it on YouTube, whether they're watching on Sky, tons of data. And how do you put that into a meaningful package that you can then take to stakeholders and have even the board of your sport look at it in such a way that, yeah, this makes sense to us. So those are the key areas in tech that I see at the moment, and it's not what you'd expect the obvious things to be of let's sell people hot dogs in the middle of a match. It's how do you string it all together and get that holistic view so you can see what's going on with each stakeholder group.
So as you're talking about the AI thing, so I just want to understand how the sponsorship is changing with the digital and the AI driving the ad targeting to the audience.
So two things happening in that sector. The first one is how do you manage your sponsorships? So if you're a big corporation, my partner works at one large financial institution, and every time she comes home, I've spotted a new sponsorship that they've got somewhere in the world, and she's saying, "But we don't even know this is happening." They're local sign-offs, and these are very big sponsorships as well. So if you're sitting as the marketing team, how do you maximize that? How do you make sure that you've got a consistent message going out across all of those sports to all of those audiences? And then secondly, what's it worth to you? Really, what's it worth to you? If you're on the Olympics, you're on sailing, you're in F1, you're on the rugby, what's it worth to you? When in fact that same fan could be watching all four sports in succession, and so you've got them once, do you need them the other three times? So there's a need to put a commercial value on what you're doing. The second one, flipping it the other way, is for the sports, the clubs, the teams to be able to say, hey, we've analyzed the data, this is what we've got, and this is what it means for you. So you can sell that package more effectively. And it comes back to that example for the soft drinks or the financial services. What's it actually worth? Where do you hit saturation? Who do you really need to influence to grow the brand value or grow sales? And how much of it is wasted around the edge? Because when you've got highly targeted data analytics on the rest of your advertising, you need to have a lot of data supporting what you're doing in sport as well. And that hasn't been available until recently. And it's still all over the place. We need good systems to bring all that data together.
So, like, how do you see participation of women into the sports segment? Or, like, are people investing into sports startups led by women? Like, what are the market trends right now?
Okay, so there's a lot of noise in the media about women's sport and women's sport growing, and I think it's like uh, most things. So the old technology thing about you get a big uptick, and then it comes down, and everybody's against it, and then it finds its level, and you can apply that to podcasts, to smartphones, whatever. Women's sports much the same thing, and if I talk honestly here, bearing in mind I've got two female athletes in the family, one at an international level. I would say that women's sport has grown a lot, and you get the percentage, but it's been from a very low base. The other thing is the market forces are that men, for the most part, are still the largest viewers and fans of sport. And it's unreasonable to say you should be watching women's sport if you're a fan of men's sport. I mean, I can't watch all the sport I want. I would be in so much trouble at home. So to then say, right, you now need to do more to support this way. Yes, you can do it. You can give your time away. You can do it. But the key to women's sport being successful is for more women to watch it. You can't expect the male audience to just shift and bring it up enough. In terms of the product, is it exciting? Yes, it is. And some of it's really exciting. And you could say, okay, well, women's football is not as exciting as men's. Well, it is if you're looking for different things, or women's golf is not the same as men's. But again, it's different. Where a man might take a driver 300 yards and then come in with a wedge, which requires exceptional driving skills. Women may have to take a driver and then another wood to come in, which means they've got to stop that ball well on a low flight. It's a different set of skills. So it is just as exciting. But the time available for the fan to go across it all requires more women to watch and participate. And the key to that comes back to that grassroots loop. We need more girls starting out in sports than going through the traditional track and then it being expected to watch soccer, golf, whatever in their 20s and 30s. So the key is get the kids involved.
Agree on that point. Get the kids involved. That's so true. So, like, with the, as you were saying that YouTube is rising, the social media is rising, and people are shifting from the traditional TV to YouTube or the social medias. So, has that impacted on the sports viewership or the rights holders adapting or, the digital first approach? How does that work?
So yes, it has. If you take for a side Roblox and what young kids are doing, and you just look at young adults, millennials and Gen Z, uh, they do go to social media and they do follow an individual, so a football player rather than the club, or an F1 driver rather than the team. And that presents problems in terms of how do you manage your rights as Formula One, for instance, when the driver's saying this, that, and the other, and posting images from the pit lane or the garage, when Formula One or Liberty have sold those rights to a broadcaster. So you get a conflict in the rights. So what agreements, legal agreements, do you need to put in place to protect the broadcast rights and what the broadcaster has bought, and also protect the athlete, the driver, their rights to express themselves and monetize, I think. So there's a legal shift that comes with the technology shift, and that's still being worked out for a lot of sports. In terms of using social media, I would advise clients short form to YouTube. Don't do your whole match on YouTube if you can get away with it, because the ad revenues favor Google, they don't favor you. So you need to find a way to drive people either to the main broadcaster that you put up or to your secondary direct to consumer platform. So short form out, and you can embrace the athletes and the drivers to help with that, and then bring them back into the long form to watch the highlights package or the live package on your own platform. So it requires a different media strategy.
Okay. So, what are the key factors determining the valuation of the broadcasting, as you were talking about, and the media rights in different sports?
So it comes down to audience. It's as simple as that. If you are a major sport, usually international, and you can sell on a global basis, then you've got great value. If you're a national sport or a national body, and so it comes down, you've got fewer people involved, fewer people interested, uh, viewing figures, whether that's social or in broadcast TV, then your value's less. Simple as that. So it's you've got to know your audience, grow your audience. And again, it comes when we do a lot of the commercial rights stuff, the first thing we look at is where's the money going to go to? If it's just going into to investors are going to take it away from the sport, or it's going to elite and take it away, then you got to say, well, we're not really helping you grow your sport. You're going to get a short-term increase in cash, but your viewing figures are going to go down. If you see somebody reinvesting in schools and kids sport because that gets 500 kids playing at the weekend at one local rugby club, which means you've got 1,000 parents that are also invested in that. Maybe they've got a couple of kids and they all come up through. Then in 5, 10, 15 years, you've got more people on player pathways going to elite, but you've also got people who turn out and play for their local side at the weekends in adult sport, and they're emotionally invested as well. And it's, you know, when I was coaching rugby with my kids, what we found was that 5 to 13, the kids we had then tended to disappear because, as far as they were concerned, over 50% of their life had been done playing rugby. So they went off to find other sports. The kids that remained at 13 and the new ones that came in were the ones most likely to carry on into college, university, and into playing in adult sport. So it's about attracting and retaining those 13-year-olds onwards. And if we do that and we continue to engage to the point that they play their game on Saturday morning because the international's on Saturday afternoon, then the sports value is going to go up. And nothing is set in stone. What's a big sport now could be very small tomorrow. Look at the IPL. It came from nowhere. And it's massive because it's really entertaining and the kids around the world are playing it. Simple as that.
Okay. So, like, these days, like, people are talking about blockchain. So, can blockchain and NFTs create sustainable revenue streams for sports, or it's just a hype?
NFTs was a lot of hype, and there were a lot of people that could see straight through that. I mean, well, you've got 20 pictures, for goodness sake. It was a picture you could only view on a digital device, and anybody doing a screen grab from a broadcast could have pretty much the same thing. And so, yeah, not really. Blockchain, different, because that obviously is a secure register of assets. And so that has a value, but it's just a standard computing value in that you now have an asset that you can track from a sponsorship point of view on where it was shared. You can look at your image library and who's got access to it, who's taken an image, where it's been used, and so on. So yeah, blockchain has a very practical computing purpose in sport. NFTs, not so much, not really, no.
Okay. So, like, what are the emerging sports these days? Like, when you look at it, and, like, how is it unlocking new revenue streams?
Technology as a whole, yeah, very much opening up new revenue streams, and it's about two things. One is applying a new technology and then looking carefully at how it changes human behavior. What do they do next? And so if you've got a situation where you have a bottleneck of fans at one end, how can your technology help them disperse so that they come in at multiple entry points? Or one of the bars is open here but has few people, this bar's oversubscribed. So these are very simple examples of where tech can help with human behavior. Again, coming back to that bit of having a really good dashboard, what did people do? What was their sentiment? How did they react on social media? How do we pull all of that together along with in-stadium experiences, what the ticketing was really like, how it was interacting with security? So every Monday morning, you look at the data you have and you think, oh, I'll just change that. We'll do it this way around next time, see how that goes. So you keep taking down barriers to the fan engaging or to the brand reaching the fan or to the media getting the drama and the pictures they require. And the more barriers you remove, lo and behold, the more engagement you get and the more money you get. It's as simple as that. So you don't treat the fan as a wallet on legs. You offer them a better value experience and you use technology to improve that value. Then you create the win-win.
Okay. So, like, what are the challenges do federations face or the leagues face in protecting their media rights and, like, from privacy or illegal streaming?
Piracy is a big problem. It's always going to be a problem, and to be fair, piracy has mushroomed due to technology and the availability of technology to copy and move things. So the solution to it will also be technology. Just as we had with videotapes in the 80s and 90s, just being copied, ripped off, or what's on. In the end, it was a shift to other media that killed that one off. So yes, there is a definite problem there. Piracy costs hundreds of millions of lost revenue in football alone in Europe each year. So I'd imagine we're into billions around the world in across all the sports, and it was as a standard technology arms race with a piracy individual and blocking that. It's just an arms race, but it's a tech solution that we need.
Okay. So, like when we're talking about this, how can brands, collaborate with each other or do partnerships where there is a win-win situation for all?
So brands as in sponsors, and how do they work with each other?
It
Okay,
can be
well,
sponsors, it can be brands, it can be federations, it can be anyone.
generally the level of partnership between a sport and its sponsors, the sport does everything it can to keep a sponsor partner, commercial partner on board, whether they're a value in kind sponsor because they're offering travel or logistics of some kind, or whether they are a cash commercial partner. The sport will work very hard to give that partner above and beyond service. So that's a given. It's returning a client. In terms of the brand and their commercial involvement, they will look to make sure that the brand values and of the team, the club, the league, and the fans match their own. And they'll also look to see what other commercial partners are in that mix that they want to be seen and associated with that match their own. So that's a marketing decision for the commercial partner. The sport has the same thing. They don't particularly want I mean, let's face it, a Russian oil company during the height of the Ukraine war. It's not going to be too popular on a lot of Western sports. So you need that brand mix. Generally, the teams on both sides are doing their best to collaborate, to work with the other commercial partners, to work with the athletes to make it a success. Everybody's motivated towards making it a success.
Okay. So, like, how has data-driven marketing transformed the fan engagement, and what are the metrics matter most for sport organizations? Because these days everything is about fan engagement.
Yep, well, it always has been. It's just that now it's more measurable. So data provides great, great insights on what's happening. We did have one client who said, "Look, we can see the footfall, and we keep seeing these groups of four go through, but only one person's buying. What's happening? How do we get the other three to buy?" And we said, "It's probably a family. So one person buys, it's a family." And that's the thing with data; it can be misleading. And now that you've got data on ticket sales, behavior in the stadium, behavior out the stadium, we can track social media, what people have engaged in, even selling clips that go out to social media or across WhatsApp. The sponsors change on those as well. So you have all that data, and data's great, but data only tells you where you've come from and where you are now. And if you went back 5,000 years in time to when Stonehenge was built, dragging those enormous stones from Wales across England and setting them up on Salisbury Plain, all the data in the world would have told you you'd got a logistics problem, but it wouldn't have invented the wheel. And that's the key bit where humanity comes back in. So you can have the AI bring it all together, but that creative spark that improves the value for the fans, the commercial partners, the media, that's a human thing. And rather than set up a year-long strategy, it's something that should be reviewed every Monday morning. What have we learned this weekend? How do we apply it? How do we improve value for each of those groups?
Okay. So, like previously, as we were talking about, strategies and sponsorships. So, how do brands activate sponsorships, beyond traditional logo placements?
Okay, so general rule of thumb is whatever you've spent on the sponsorship, you should spend at least the same amount on activation. And the first thing to do is look at your audience. We were approached by one engineering company that was into motorsport, and they were spending a fortune on a title sponsorship. And we looked at it and said, "But you only sell to governments around the world, so perhaps you don't need the title sponsorship if all you're doing is having an exclusive place to entertain clients and potential clients. Perhaps a smaller one with the sport itself rather than the team, and still have access to that hospitality as your key driver." For others, let's take a big bank brand. They probably don't need brand awareness, but what they do want to show is that emotional engagement with a team or a league that the fan has. So they share that loyalty coming through to their brand. For others, it could be straight sales. So whatever the decision is to go into a commercial partnership with a sport, we need to move away from the days when it was the chairman who liked a particular sport, so they did it, put it back into the marketing department who are saying, how does this fit with the rest of our marketing campaign? What are we delivering here? Does it really resonate with our advertising, our public relations, our social media program, our sales program? How do we make it amplify what we're doing in the mainstream by having the sports sponsorship? And so you can run a ton of data, but the real value is it going to improve your balance sheet? Is it going to improve sales? And if the answer is no on those, why do it? If the answer is yes, refine it, hone it, bring it in, use the data to prove that you've done it.
Okay. So, like, according to you, according to the experience you carry, what is a marketing playbook? A few quick rules which all digital first sport approach, if we go for it, what is it?
So it comes back to that overriding rule is what's our target market as a brand, as a product? Which sport is going to give us access to those people? And of those people, how many can we really influence to buy more? And even if you've got 100 million people watching the sport, but you can't influence any of them to buy more, then your next question is, well, is it going to maintain our present market share? And so it comes back to just standard business practices. Where's our public? What do we need to say to them? How do we influence their behavior? How does this sport help us influence their behavior? So your metrics, your decision to go in is that. Can you afford it? There's nothing worse than just investing millions, putting a logo up, and everybody leaves the stadium and says, well, what's that company over there? Who are they? What does it do? It's got to be activated, and the activation needs to fit with the sports values, and your own marketing values and what you're trying to achieve on your wider TV campaign, social campaign. The more successfully you integrate those, the more successful your sponsorship will be. And it's good old-fashioned common sense. Stand back, take an overview, and then activate where you can.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the next segment of the podcast. That is the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
I will ask you a few questions. You have to be very quick in answering. It can be one word or one line, not more than that.
Okay.
Okay. Let's begin. If you could play any sports star in a movie, who would it be?
Ayrton Senna.
Okay. What's harder, memorizing a long script or pulling off a perfect sports move?
They're both the same. They both require time, effort, dedication. Yeah, they're both the same.
Okay. If you could swap lives with any athlete for a day, who would it be?
I kind of like my life. I'd like to stay as me, but other than that, I would probably say Daley Thompson.
Okay. Acting for a video game or live performance on stage? Which one gives you more adrenaline?
Oh, definitely. You're on stage. It's a proper human interaction. You're in the spotlight. People are watching, and you can see their reaction straight away. You'll never get that in a studio.
Absolutely. If you had to pick a sport to compete it at the Olympics, what would it be?
Well, I'd go with decathlon again because Daley Thompson was an absolute screen and sports idol for me, and to be top across 10 sports is quite amazing.
Okay. Which sport do you think has the most dramatic movie-worthy storyline?
Oh, definitely motorsport. It doesn't have to be Formula One, but motorsport. You don't get much more drama than hurtling towards a tight bend at 200 miles an hour.
Okay. Which is your favorite go-to sports movie?
Le Mans 66.
Okay. One favorite person, living or dead?
That would be Ayrton Senna again. I really admired that guy, and he was top of Formula One while I was working in the sector.
Okay. Now we'll move on to the next segment. You'll have to answer the question into 30 seconds. All right.
Okay.
So, according to you, what is AI in investing, commercialization, and the sports media? What role does it play?
Amy, I'm sorry I lost you. Your screen froze for a
Sorry,
second.
sorry, I'll repeat it. Like according to you, oh, am I audible now?
Yep.
Okay. All right. According to you, what is the role of AI in investing, commercialization, and sports media? You will have to answer this in 30 seconds.
Okay. So AI at the moment, probably bringing together as many data streams as possible and presenting them in a way that it's digestible for the human audience, whatever their discipline might be. I think I use it mostly for research into markets with different languages. Perplexity is brilliant for that. And then I think in terms of media production, AI bringing down costs, providing viewers with more choice and a better value experience, that's where it works. But I don't think we've really got going with what AI could deliver for us. And having a conversation 5, 10 years from now, you get a very different answer.
Perfect. Thank you, Jeremy, for your wonderful insights and joining us today.
Oh, you're very welcome. I've enjoyed it. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. So, everyone, let's stay connected for more understanding on sports technology in the future. Hit the like button, subscribe to our channel so you never miss on an episode. That was Jeremy sharing his insights today. Thanks for tuning in once again. We meet on the next episode. Till that time, stay curious, stay inspired, keep exploring.